Greetings, YouTube. I'm going to link to an article today that deals with an attempt to explain to men what dealing with daily sexism can do to you. The emotional baggage that women have to carry around every day because they're dealing with sexism in their own home, in their office, at their job at the store, when they walk down the street, when they shop, when they go to school, when they go to church, when they go everywhere. And that it never stops. And like rain on a mountain, it'll wear you down. Whenever I bring up these kind of topics, I invariably get comments that fall into the, not all men category, or, well, this, and that, and these men explaining why what I'm saying and what the women are saying in the articles I often link to isn't true, or why they're the exception. And I understand this. I've done this. I was wrong when I did it, but I know I've done it. Invariably, this happens. Now, some of the people making these comments, of course, are trolls or genuine misogynists. But a lot of them, because I've known these people through YouTube for quite a while in some cases, a lot of them are well-meaning. And that's the sad part. They are diminishing and silencing women that aren't even in the room with them. But they're not listening. So I'm kind of terrified what happens when they encounter these kind of things in real life. So whenever you hear a woman discuss sexism in any way, I want you to do two things for me. Just entertain these two things for me. One, that the woman who's speaking about this, that her life experience is not your life experience. That simple concept that everyone's life experience is unique to them. And your life experiences may not be applicable to them, and theirs may not be applicable to yours. Alright, so just entertain that thought. And two, I want you to entertain the thought that the woman saying these things is telling the truth. This may be really hard for some men. Of course, the trolls and the genuine, severe, hardcore misogynists are just going to dismiss it out of hand. They're going to go so far as to say that the concept of entertaining that that a woman is telling the truth means that they are spending more time on the words of a woman than they are on the words of a man. So, reverse sexism! But I want you to try it. Just entertain the thought that she is telling the truth. Listen to her words and imagine if these words are true, what does that mean to this person's daily life? Because women have been trying to explain this kind of thing to us for centuries. And for the most part, we ignore them. For the most part, we dismiss them. We diminish it. We push it out of the way. We let them carry the emotional baggage, do the emotional work on a daily basis that we don't want to do because we aren't affected by this sexism coming from men towards women. And that's what this is, sexism coming from men towards women. So it is not sexism that men can experience. Now, I'm not saying that men are free from sexism, from other men, from women. But it is not the rain from the sky upon the mountain. It is not a constant, unending deluge. And no matter what your personal life experience has been, it isn't anyone else's life experience. So you have to remember that. Even if you've had a horrible life, even if the things have gotten terrible for you, even if your suffering has been on the level of Job, it doesn't mean that someone else's suffering isn't equally important to them, even if it's different. Buddhism has taught me one thing. It is that suffering is the one universal human experience. That everyone's suffering is unique to them. And what one person can tolerate, another person can't. And one person may say, well, my suffering has been so much worse than them. It doesn't matter what you think. The level of suffering they've had may be just as bad as the level of suffering you have. Even if they don't weigh on the scale in the same way in your mind, it doesn't matter. You can't compare suffering. It leads nowhere. It doesn't help. What you can do is work on alleviating your own suffering and show empathy, sympathy, and compassion for another person and accept their suffering as genuine by listening to them, by saying, I really wish that hadn't happened to you, and mean it, by entertaining the idea that the words they are speaking are the truth. And remembering that their experience is not your experience, and you cannot apply the standards that you live by to them when it comes to their suffering. You may be able to carry 1,000-pound load, someone may be able to only carry a 100-pound load. It doesn't make you better, it doesn't make them worse. It just means that maybe you can tolerate more suffering than someone else can, or you've had to. It doesn't diminish that the other person is still suffering. I once read a book dealing with survivalism, and actual cases of survival, not what the firearm filleting fetishists would call it, but actual people in survival situations. And the author said that for some people, they can tolerate almost anything, and for others, not being able to wipe their ass can be a crushing bit of survivalism. That may be too much for them to handle. Everybody has different levels of tolerance. Everybody can only handle so much. And we should never ask anyone to handle more than they can take. And too many men do that. Too many men do that every single day. I did. I would look at my life suffering, and I would look at another person's life suffering as well, they've got it much less severe than I do. Why are they wanting my sympathy, my empathy, my compassion? Why should I give it to them? I've had it worse. That isn't going to get us anywhere, no, is it? Listen to the other person's words. Believe them. Accept their reality. Respect them. So, entertain those thoughts for me. Before you reply and say, well, this is why, or well, not all men are like that. Before you do that, listen and accept that their experience is not your experience. Try it for me, please. Even if it is just once, try it. Entertain that they're telling you the truth. And then follow that line of thinking to its conclusion. And maybe you can walk a mile in someone else's shoes. Maybe you can finally begin to understand that other person's life experience in a way that you never did before. And if you do this enough, if you begin to see the world enough through the eyes of another, you can't ever stop. Never. You'll begin to see it everywhere. Because the sad truth is, sexism